Valve and lawsuits go together like peanut butter and jelly. Every time another company tries to sue them, it's a certified, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? I've talked about Valve before, usually in association with Steam, but they are probably the most consumer-friendly business I've ever seen in the gaming sector. So much so that they fundamentally have a de facto monopoly on PC gaming. Which means the big man upstairs isn't going to take too kindly to them. Every time they win one lawsuit, two more take its place. Their legal team is working overtime at this point. Most recently, they won their lawsuit against Rothschild, which is an impressive feat of its own. Beating them is like beating Ishin, the Sword Saint. Just an incredible win for Valve, but now they're entering round 2 with a lawsuit from the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, claiming Valve knowingly promotes illegal gambling. The state of the world is so fucking sad, we just can't have nice things anymore. So what they're referring to is their loot boxes in games such as CS2, TF2, Dota 2, etc. Which, to anyone with a functioning frontal lobe, will tell you is a very common mechanic implemented in the modern gaming sphere. It's not just exclusive to Valve and Steam, but it is interesting that they chose them as their first target when there are more noteworthy companies such as Epic Games or Roblox. Especially when you take into consideration that one of their claims is how their loot boxes cause serious harm for young people. I'm just gonna hit you with the cold water. There is no way the loot boxes in TF2 or CS2 are targeting children more than the gacha mechanics implemented in Fortnite and Roblox. To me, and pretty much everyone else who's into PC gaming, it's so obvious that they chose Valve for this lawsuit because they're a private company. They've never gone public, which means there's no stocks to lose, and they're not backed by billionaires. Which makes their track record of winning lawsuits all the more impressive. Now, I want to reiterate, I'm not denying that there's a problem in regards to loot boxes or gacha mechanics in gaming. I think that super sucks. But Valve has shown time and time again that they really value the consumers above all else. So I can't imagine that their loot boxes are any worse than all of the other gacha mechanics used in other games that are owned by actual multi-billion-dollar companies. And as we dive into this lawsuit, you'll see this feels more like a frivolous attempt at crushing the little guy because Valve has absolutely dominated the market on PC gaming. Steam makes up 75% of all revenue for PC games, and it's not because Valve implements monopolistic tactics or anything, it's because they just provide a better service. So much so that if you are a developer, you are hurting yourself by not releasing your games on Steam. It's not that they don't have competition, it's just that their competition is incompetent. Citing the alleged promotion of gambling towards minors, New York Attorney General Letitia James is suing Valve. The lawsuit claims that this is in direct contradiction to the state's regulation on the matter, and the end goal, should the court rule in James's favor, is to put an end to these practices and require fees to be paid in reparation. This is something that's gained traction in both the UK and US following 2018 when Belgium actually banned the use of loot boxes. Like, you cannot open CS2 loot boxes in Belgium, and it seems like that's what the New York Attorney General is hoping to accomplish here. Again, I'm not saying loot boxes aren't a problem, I'm just saying it's odd that they're choosing to target Valve, especially when you take into consideration that at the time, both the US and UK ruled it wasn't gambling because you're getting an in-game item as opposed to money. But because the ecosystem has evolved and you can now sell some items for thousands or even $1 million like that recent AK, they're arguing that it has become a full-blown casino for gambling in their games like CS2. So, on the surface, they're not wrong about how this could be classified as gambling, but when you dive into the nitty-gritty, they're portraying Valve like they're the head honcho of this polymarket in gaming, which doesn't make sense because Valve has changed the way their loot boxes function in CS2 to minimize this issue. And when you look at other noteworthy companies like Roblox, you can't make a good faith argument to say Valve is worse when Roblox's demographic is not only primarily composed of children, but they actually have a stock market for their in-game items. Like, the boogeyman they're talking about is real. I just don't think they should be investigating Valve. They also have very misleading information in the actual lawsuit. Like in this section where they're saying they have these near-miss mechanics. So you stop one slot before or after the gold and get the worthless item instead. The problem with that claim, however, is that it doesn't happen in CS2 anymore. That was one of the first things they changed to their loot boxes, and now if you see a gold item, you get the gold item. In fact, that screenshot they used is fraudulent and was taken from an OniPixel stream where he did get the gold item.
And when they tracked down the exact stream the screenshot is from, he actually wins the knife in the clip. So just blatant misinfo.
Like you and they.
Yeah, that claim they made was just blatantly wrong. That is a certified objection moment. I also found this statement to be comical because they actually tried to pull the classic "video games are evil" card by stating, "It is important to note that Valve's promotion of games that glorify violence and guns helps fuel the dangerous epidemic of gun violence, particularly amongst young gamers who can become numbed to grave violence before their brains are fully developed." It's actually impressive that they would try this angle. There are real arguments you can make in regards to loot boxes and gambling. But that last claim about video games causing violence, that is such an ass pull. I cannot believe they're still trying to use that as a sound argument. And I want to put a face on the person who's behind this lawsuit because I think it speaks volumes to know that the person making that claim in the big 2026 has probably been around long enough to have heard that same tactic being used before in regards to other activities, such as movies, music, and even books. Like, she has to know that tactic has never ever worked, and never ever will. Not to get sidetracked or anything, but I'm just so tired of how everyone in power seems to be extraordinarily old. Like, she may not be straight out of a sarcophagus, but this is not someone who I would think is best suited to handle these types of legal matters. It's crazy to me that everyone calling the shots and leading this country are so fucking old. Why is everyone in power right now so old? Anyways, that last part being hammered in this is completely useless, as are a lot of the claims they try to make in regards to Valve being the perpetrators and promoting kid gambling in their games. It's never resulted in anything of significance, but at its core, there are real arguments you can make about how these loot boxes and other gacha mechanics for in-game items and cosmetics revolve around gambling. That is a real thing. However, it's not exclusive to Valve, and they definitely don't promote it. To me, it just feels like they're targeting Valve because they have nothing to lose by going after them, and if they can succeed, it would have wide-reaching effects across many different games. So, I'm really interested to see what becomes of this lawsuit, and I just had to talk about it. Make sure you tip your bartenders, don't go gambling, and stay in church, y'all. That's really about it. So,